script is too much in a musical? How much music is too much? And how are you supposed to determine what your show needs when the examples range from a show having 10 songs total to being 3 hours of straight music? Let's explore how to look at balancing book, music, and lyric inside any given musical so that you can know what direction to head in with your next musical theater project. First and foremost, let's acknowledge there is a gigantic range of possibility when it comes to the amount of music versus the amount of book in a show, in a musical. And as part of this, there are different facets of what differs that kind of makes up this whole range. Show length itself makes a big difference. 10 songs in an 80-minute show is way more music than 10 songs in a 2.5-hour show. Also, song lengths and song structures make a difference to this as well. Many of the classic musical theater songs are 2 to 3 minute 32-bar chorus songs, whereas modern musical theater often has songs that are long and meandering at times that can be like 6 minutes, 7 minutes more. And every show is going to require something different from its script and its score, so we always want to be keeping a major eye on the intentions of the show to help direct us as we figure out this balance. Here's what we need to consider up front. Why is this show a musical, and what role does the music play in the show? Music can vary in its purpose from one show to another, and I don't just mean the songs. I also mean musical scenes, and underscore, and incidental music. There are a lot of things to consider when it comes to what your music is doing within a given musical. Take a look at how heightened your world is, and figure out, is music going to be a part of that heightening, or is it secondary to the heightening? For instance, Guys and Dolls is a show that is pretty heightened in its realm, a world of musical theater, New York City, but the story itself isn't particularly heightened. It's pretty intimate little stories that we're going through. Versus Les Miserables, which is in a world that is not terribly heightened in and of itself. We're just hitting major big plot moments, but the music, which goes through the whole thing, it really shows how heightened the emotions are of all these story beats, all the story moments of that show. Consider how much storytelling the music itself is doing. Is it uplifting moments? Is it creating atmosphere? Is it creating or breaking tension? If we're talking about the plot side of storytelling, then we have to talk about the character side of storytelling as well. We need to know, how do the characters in your show speak? How do they communicate with one another? And does that differ? Does that change at all between their spoken material and their lyric material? Also, does that change when they're speaking to others versus speaking to themselves? And are we going to be singing to ourselves or to others? Combination? Does it turn out that dialogue makes more sense most of the time for the characters in the world you've built? How emotional is your piece? Because we always need to know what the emotional threshold is going to be that pulls us out of dialogue land and into music. If your show is particularly emotional, particularly heightened, maybe the whole thing is sung through and played through, something like Les Mis, versus Guys and Dolls is not terribly emotional for the most part, but when emotions are high, good or bad, there is a song to be found. When will the audience need breaks, and how significant are those breaks going to be? Does it make sense to do these moments of rest, these breaks in dialogue or in song form? Something like a comedy song or Charm versus a really funny scene. Consider, what is it that you're actually trying to convey to your audience? What are the messages? What are the themes? How does that tie in? What do you want them to pay particular attention to, and what do you want them to walk away knowing or thinking about? Does music play a pivotal role in that, or is silence going to end up being more effective? Now, a lot of the questions I've posed so far here are covered in my North Star question sets, which you can download at the link in the description below. It's a free PDF. It's got a lot of great primer questions that are going to get a lot of this information and other information about your show just out and down, and you can use that as a guide as you go through your process. I highly suggest it. So do download those at the link below. I promise they will be useful. Now, the next major thing to consider up front, we have to consider as a team, as a group, and that is going to be about the approach to creating the story and putting the music into it. Does it make more sense with this particular show to have the script written out first in a first draft form, and then to go through the process of eating up the script, eating up the book with the song moments, depending on what happens in the script when written? Or if you already know going in that music is going to be critical, crucial to a lot of plot moments and character moments. Maybe you even know what some of those are going to be already. Perhaps it makes more sense to work off of an outline and go through a song spotting process first. Maybe even writing some of the music first before any script actually gets written. Or perhaps you do a combination platter where you go through writing the first draft of the score, but knowing that you can pause and say insert song here that does, and write it all out in paragraph form. That way you can move forward knowing that that song is going to happen. So your scriptwriter can be writing the script and your songwriters can be writing the songs, and it can all happen in tandem. You can figure it out as you go, kind of meander through. Having this kind of a conversation early in the process, like right up front, helps create both boundaries and closeness within a collaboration, so I strongly suggest it. Okay, now that we did all the upfront stuff, what are the other major things that we need to consider when we look at how much book versus song in a show? Well, we need to acknowledge that the best musicals out there really do feel seamless in the way that the music, the lyric, and the book function together. If these three elements are not working in harmony to create a unified story that feels like it is flowing completely and never screeches on its brakes to a halt or standstill or a pause moment, then you're probably on the right track. It's a good thing to always keep an eye on. Specifically, pay a lot of attention, very close attention, to how dialogue flows into song. I know this is a tricky one. The main thing we want to avoid here is a shift that feels jarring coming out of the dialogue and into a song moment. I can't tell you how many times I've watched people make fun of the whole, and the scene is going, and then there's a setup line, and bing! Oh, a song. Instead, follow the emotional arc of a scene and watch as the emotions rise and rise and rise until we hit that threshold at which a song has to begin. Whether that creeps in through underscore or just does go with the bell tone and we go. No matter what, if the emotional journey hits the threshold and the audience can recognize that, it's gonna feel natural. Looking at the balance of music to dialogue in your show as it exists in any draft will help you determine also if there's any point in your show where you kind of have a music desert, or if you've overloaded the audience with songs. We want to create a really nice balance so that there's no point in a show where like, why did we just do 4 songs in a row? I mean, before that there was 30 minutes without a song. That is not going to feel balanced automatically. So we want to make sure that there's always something that feels consistent in terms of this movement between dialogue and music throughout your show, no matter what form it's in. And another major one that I think not a lot of people consider is the idea of motifing. When it comes to both musical and lyrical motifs and themes throughout a show, the more that you can weave those in directly to the dialogue and the lyric and the music, the more that it is going to feel like a cohesive whole, and that one of the elements is not out of balance with the other two. It also allows you to plant seeds that you follow through on later, echo moments that happen previous. It's a beautiful storytelling tool, and it really helps bring the 3 elements into balance together within a show that feels cohesive. And all of this, of course, is very important to consider. It's a lot of elements, some of which have to be thought of up front and some of which you have to keep an eye on as you write. But none of it really matters if you don't have a good working relationship with your collaborators. So if you want to learn more about collaboration, what it is, how it works, then you should watch this video next. Otherwise, thank you all for being here with me today, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers!